What is up, fellas and lady fellas? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I've got another deck profile for you. This time we're going back to one of my older favorites, Burning Abyss. I actually didn't even play the game when this deck came out. It was like very, very good in its prime, but I got into it afterwards, and it's been a rogue deck for a while. And I think you'll also think that this build is like somewhat different, somewhat interesting in the fact that all we've seen from Burning Abyss in the last couple years, I would say like almost 2 years, is we just keep seeing all these like crazy combo variants of Burning Abyss. But this version is actually more of a mid-range kind of excuse me, version of the deck that really wants to slow things down, play a grindier match, and just use its graveyard efficiencies to kind of outgrind your opponent and take a win eventually. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the list. I don't want to waste too much time. Starting with the Burning Abyss stuff, you're going to see a much larger Burning Abyss engine than normal because this is a grindier version. You're actually trying to take advantage of what Burning Abyss does in its nature, not just use it as a small package in a combo deck. So we're starting off with the 3 summon guys. We have obviously Graf, Seer, and Libic. These 2 are amazing, and they're at 1 on the ban list for a reason. And then Libic's just there because if you draw either of these, sometimes Libic can help unbrick those hands. You wouldn't think these guys are bricks in the hand, but depending on the hand, Libic could be absolutely essential to help unbrick those. So I think you got to play them. Then for the 3 ofs, we play 3 Farfa and 3 Skarm. I have the 3rd gold rare coming because for some reason I just like the gold rare for Burning Abyss. I know like a lot of people think that's not gold rare is not great, but for some reason I find myself drawn to specifically Burning Abyss gold rare. I think like the colors actually work, whereas a lot of other decks the gold rare like does not work that well. But anyway, in a grindier version of this deck, you're trying to send Farfa all the time, like turn after turn, continue to neutralize big threats your opponent has as you're trying to like maintain control of the game state. And then Skarm, just amazing. Just sometimes you just send it because you're not even sure what to send. There's nothing particularly great, so you're like, I'll just take a follow-up play, a guaranteed follow-up play. So you'll send the Skarm, and yeah, got to play both at 3 in my opinion in this type of deck. And then for the 1-ofs, the utility 1-ofs, 1 Alec, 1 Calcab, and 1 Barbar. Alec giving you additional utility. Instead of like quick sending Farfa from your deck with something like Beatrice, you could actually send Alec instead. Gives you like an impermanence like effect instead of a 1-turn banish, so sometimes this can be better. Calcab also really nice, just bouncing back row in a really like middle game state. Bouncing something like on an end phase of the turn somebody sets something can definitely set them back with their trap cards. And then a Barbar burning for damage, especially this version of the deck. This version of the deck does not does not profusely like pump out a ton of damage like more combo versions of this deck can. So I think he's really a necessity for one, just time, as well as just games where you get them really low and your win condition is burn them once, loop him back, burn them again to finish them off. It definitely can be a legit win condition. So that's it for the Burning Abyss monsters. I believe there's 12 there. Nothing too crazy. And then for the normal summons, 2 Tour Guide. She's the most efficient card in your deck, I would say. I mean, she gets you like a mini combo just by herself, so I think like that's like worth playing her. She baits a hand trap, but she baits a hand trap as just 1 card in your hand, not having to play multiple or use multiple cards to bait 1 hand trap, you know. And then the 3 Rhino Warrior. In other versions, in the more combo versions, you see people cutting down on this card a little bit. It's nice to have utility-wise, nice for mills, all that stuff. But in this version, you really want to see him because he just gets you access to like anything you want. It's really, really good in this deck. So those are your 5 normal summons. And then the last like monster in the deck is 2 Absolute King Backjack. This card is phenomenal in this version of the deck. So this card's kind of obscure. If you don't know what this card does exactly, this card pretty much says when he's sent to the graveyard just generically sent however way, he could be milled, he could be just foolish from deck, you could discard him as cost from hand, link him off from the field. However he's sent, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and rearrange them to whatever order you want. Then he has a quick effect during your opponent's turn where he can banish himself for cost to let you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a normal trap card, you can set it to your field and it can immediately be activated that turn, kind of like Trap Trick. But if it's a monster or a spell, it gets milled to the graveyard. So it lets you stack your deck and then you mill whatever the best thing to do was, and if it's a trap, you actually get to add it to your field, add an extra disruption. This card is phenomenal in this deck because you'll see when we get to the traps how good this card can be. Even if you don't even find a trap, you're going to find a Burning Abyss monster that you can put on top of your deck. You know, send it and like send a Farfa on your opponent's turn just as a quick effect, becomes just like Farfing your opponent, which is nice, as well as just lining up the last two cards to be whatever draws you want, which also is really nice. So definitely a really good card. It can be kind of tricky to learn the play style of playing with a card like that, but once you get used to it, you won't be mad, I promise you that. And then the last monster we play is 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Nothing too crazy, just felt like this is generically just one of the best hand traps, just works somewhat versus everything, limiting ceilings and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's good. I would not be upset with this card in really any matchup. For the spells, 1 Foolish Burial and 3 Called by the Grave. This card's just like the most versatile card in your deck, and Called by the Grave is just Called by the Grave. I mean, like, you're doing mini combos, but because there's such mini combos, like one hand trap probably like stops the combo. So like Ash, DD Crow, just hitting certain stuff like that really slows certain stuff down. So it's fine. It's definitely a card, like if I felt like there was something significantly better, it'd be one of those middle cards that I would be fine dropping copies of to make room for something. But for now, it's I think it's good. And then we get to the trap lineup. So I'm going to show them all. There's going to be a lot here. So every 3 copies of Trap Trick, phenomenal. You're playing like a bunch. You're playing like almost 20 normal traps. 3 Fiend Griefing. This card is insane in this deck. Because Graveyard Disruption is at like a premium right now, you're shuffling Eldritch's back. You're shuffling like Block Dragons back. You're shuffling, you know, Salamangreat cards back. Like every matchup there's something to shuffle back, and then you also just get to foolish any fiend in your deck. That could be any of your Burning Abyss cards, or it could just be your Backjack. Backjack gets you a trap and another disruption, a really powerful disruption, so he is very good. This card's very crucial in this deck. Then we have 3 copies of Dino Miscus. Sorry about the proxies on this. Mike is has been borrowing my Paleozoic stuff, so I don't have my Dynamiscuses with me. So there would be 3 here, and then also 3 Karma Cut. This card's also insane. They kind of fill the same slots, but it's just so powerful right now, and Eldritch is so prevalent that these cards are like how you beat Eldritch. These cards plus Called by the Grave and Trap Trick being 3 more copies of these is literally like, if you can resolve Karma Cut to hit an Eldritch on field and engraved, that's probably the end of the duel right there, first off. Otherwise, your win condition most of the time is to get rid of at least 2 Golden Lords, and if you do, they probably just can't even put enough pressure on you with just 1 Golden Lord to really like win the game versus you. So you can just like grind them out. So yeah, your win condition versus them is like hit 2 Golden Lords, just get them up and gone. Another card that helps with that is Evenly Matched. In the main, I know this is kind of crazy, but this card, like with Ash, are like your 2 going second cards. That I play. Like, this is just so high impact. If you draw this game 1 going second, just not a lot of people are expecting it, not a lot of people are playing around it, and so it's so insanely strong. And then we also have 2 Lost Wind. I got the inspiration to even want to like go and build this deck from Thomas Rose. He's been playing this deck as of recently in like the Crush Card Cup CMOS tournament online, and so I saw the ideas from him. He was playing Paleozoic Canadia in this slot, and I wasn't really that big of a fan of it, so I decided to swap it out for Lost Wind. I think Lost Wind actually is better as far as graveyard synergy, so if you do mill it off Dante, if your opponent goes in the extract, you are just going to get a free Lost Wind back, which is really nice. And I just like this card more, I think, than Paleozoic Canadia. I think just like it cripples things just as well, but also can do it twice. And Canadian Dynamistus coming back to the field are honestly not even that good a lot of the time. It like bricks Burning Abyss monsters in your hand and stuff, which can be like iffy. But yeah, this is the trap lineup. Pretty good. How many is that? That's 17 total. So it's been working really good for me. I would say that like sometimes, obviously, like going first, evenly matched can be like underwhelming. But also, if you are starting to get blown out in any kind of duel, this can be like a weird way that nobody will be expecting if you can like trap trick into an evenly match, like on the end of your opponent's battle phase or on the end of your own battle phase, just to like rip 3-4 cards off their field and neutralize the game state and potentially give yourself a chance to like work your way back into a duel. But 43 cards in the main. I know it's not 40. I usually try and stick to 40, but I felt like there are a lot of cards you need in the deck, and I would need to play around with it more to even decide if I even wanted to drop anything lower. But yeah, The deck's insanely fun, guys. I swear you on that. Getting into the extract, though, we'll start with one enemy gravity controller. Sometimes what you do is you'll make Dante in the extra monster zone, because if he does get negated, you do want to follow up by going gravity controller, and then Dante floats, and like his materials float, and like, you know, you kind of can like get a lot of recursion there, and then this card's just a pain to out. So big fan of this card in the deck. Really nice utility. One Cherubini, the Ebony Angel of the Burning Abyss. She's great. You actually don't go into her as much as you would think. This isn't a combo version, so if you only put 2 monsters on the field, you'd rather probably be going into Dante a lot of the time. But if you do open a Burning Abyss heavier hand, you may want to be relying on her instead. Just to extend a little bit, and she does allow you to like extend to like make bigger pushes, like make big link plays into Boral Sword, Boral, that kind of stuff. Next up, we have IP Mascarena. This card's insane. I actually just don't have. This is the only card that I just like straight up don't have, just because it's expensive, and I've been like waiting on it for a while. But this card's very, very good. Sometimes you like your like best combo, quote unquote combo, is end this with Beatrice. So you can Beatrice your opponent with like a Farfa or an Lich, or I guess you could also send like Backjack, and then you could use this to like link them both off into a unicorn or something and disrupt them again. So really nice there, nice utility, getting disruptions with generic materials, and then you play a Nightmare package, Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn, all good. I know, guys, I'm telling you, I say this in like every deck profile now, like don't sleep on Cerberus, man. Cerberus is better than you think now. I definitely think he's like a really good utility card, and especially in a deck where like over half your deck is like really good discards, so like you're not even losing full value when you discard for these. Big fan of that. Just makes you feel like you're not trading 1-for-1s. It makes you feel like you're trading like a half for a 1, which is good. One Trismania, this is just potential blowout versus back row decks. Elder Lich specifically, because they do a lot of setting on like setting off their cards, and then those cards are set so they can't be activated that turn, and then you can like go into Trisbania and like just banish them and like wipe multiple cards off the field, or even just one big follow-up play off the field. Can be pretty good, and then burn your opponent, and then it's a beater, and then like it's pretty good. And then Boral and Boral Sword. Mike's also borrowing my Boral Sword for Paleozoic Frogs as well, so I don't have that. But yeah, this deck doesn't really do great at power pushes, but you can get to 4 materials in a turn, depending on your hand. If you have a more offensive hand, or if you've been kind of holding things, waiting for the right time, when you are ready, you can go for a Boral Sword kill, or Borlo Dragon is like the only way in your deck to actually out indestructible, untargetable monsters. So it just helps you deal with big threats like that. 3 copies of Dante. Like I said before, you actually don't make Cherubini as much as you think. You actually make Dante like every turn 1, and you try and you're making like a 2 at least. Most duels, like most duels, I would say you make 2 Dante, and then some duels you make 3. So I do think 3 is necessary. I had a common, but whatever. I ordered a 3rd gold rare, so just because the rest of my deck is gold rare, I wanted to keep that like true to all the Burning Abyss cards I have. But yeah, 3 Dante, 1 Levier, the Sea Dragon. This card only comes up in very specific situations, and I think those situations are specifically when you banish Backjack to use his effect to do like the reveal or mill or whatever. He is banished, so you can at later points in the duel just make a Levier, reborn, or bring back the Backjack, link them off for like a Nightmare or something, get the Backjack effect to look again, and then set up for another disruption. So it can come up, and it's also like an 1800 beater. Like it's fine. It's a good card in those situations, but definitely it doesn't come up all the time, but very specific situations. The one Beatrice, not really going to say too much about this. This floating is like so crazy. The only thing I'll say is that like certain decks in our game right now, like Salamangreat, like it's really struggle to deal with a card like this. I've had a duel versus Salamangreat where like he had me out-resourced like crazy, like absolutely crazy, and just going into Beatrice when he had like 5 more cards than me, it still took him 2 turns, because the only way he really could out this cleanly was like getting access to a roar, killing this, and then negating its float effect in grave. Like that was the only way he cleanly added it. So really, really good card. And then I do play the one Dante Pilgrim. You don't have to play this, because obviously off Cherubini you could special something like regular Dante or Cherubini. But having him, he is like more powerful in certain situations. Some decks, again, just like really struggle to deal with. a 2800 beater that can't be targeted, and he gets you draws as well as like quick discards of Burning Abyss monsters. And also, what is it? If he's destroyed by your opponent, if he's destroyed by battle, let's see. You can send a random card from your opponent's hand to the grave. So it also gets you like extra resource, like pulling from your opponent as well. So it's just such a good card, man. When you can go into him a lot of times, he's really just like a problem for your opponent. And again, in a version of the deck like this, where you're not going hyper offensive, being able to just drop him on the field as like a float is like really strong, because you can just like protect him with traps, protect him with whatever other like protective cards you have, and then, you know, just take care of business from there, maintain your game state. But yeah, this version of Burning Abyss is like crazy fun, man. I swear, I've never played a more fun version of Burning Abyss. This is like my favorite deck to play at the moment. I implore you guys to try it out. There's a ton of stuff. One of the coolest things about decks like these is when you're playing a deck that like has generic normal trap searching, whenever the meta changes, Burning Abyss is still fine. What you need is you just adjust the normal trap lineup to whatever the meta currently is. You know what I mean? Like there's normal traps that cover almost any kind of like meta game, but just sometimes the game it struggles with like figuring out decks that are fast enough and can make normal traps work and search them consistently, stuff like that. But this deck can kind of make that work a little better. So I think that really puts it in a really cool spot. But guys, let me know your thoughts down below on this deck list here. Keep in mind, it's not the combo version that a lot of people have been used to for the last couple of years of Burning Abyss. It was kind of sparked, like my passion to make this deck was sparked by Thomas Rose. So definitely shout out to him. He's definitely a well-respected player, and I definitely respect the hell out of him. So shout out to him, of course. And I will see you guys in the next deck profile. All right? Thanks for watching. Peace.